In April of 1912, the RMS Titanic was not merely a ship, it was a floating palace. Marble staircases, gilded railings, silk carpets, and dining rooms designed for royalty carried the wealthiest passengers of the Edwardian era across the Atlantic. Among them was John Jacob Astor IV, the wealthiest man aboard the Titanic and one of the richest men in the world. By his side was Madeleine Astor, just 18 years old, exquisitely dressed, newly married, and quietly pregnant, her belly carrying a baby who would be born into the Astor dynasty, one of America's most powerful families. The Astors occupied the finest first-class suites, attended by servants, Colonel Astor's valet, Madeleine's maid and nurse, dining beneath crystal chandeliers. For Madeleine, the voyage was meant to be a graceful return to New York after an extended European honeymoon. But New York society hadn't exactly welcomed them with open arms. The scandal started 18 months earlier. Colonel Astor, age 47, divorced his first wife Ava after years of an unhappy marriage. Divorce was shocking enough in 1911 high society. But then he fell in love with Madeleine Force, the teenage daughter of a wealthy Brooklyn family. She was 18, he was 47, nearly 30 years separated them. New York's elite was horrified. Whispers followed them everywhere, invitations dried up. When they married in September 1911, society turned its back on them. So they left, escaping to Egypt and Europe for an extended honeymoon, hoping time would soften the scandal. They enjoyed the crossing for 5 days, but on the night of April 14, 1912, luxury met its limit. When the Titanic struck the iceberg, John Jacob Astor acted with measured calm. He helped Madeleine into warm evening attire, draped her in a fur coat, and escorted her onto the cold deck above, where elegance gave way to urgency. As officers began loading lifeboats, a strict order prevailed: women and children first. Because Madeleine was expecting a child, she was directed to Lifeboat 4. Before she stepped inside, John Jacob Astor asked politely, almost formally, if he might accompany his wife. Second Officer Lightoller refused. No men were allowed. Not even John Jacob Astor, one of the richest men, could get onto the boat. Without protest, without display, Astor stepped back into the fading grandeur of the deck. His final reassurance to Madeleine was spoken softly: "The sea is calm. You will be safe." As her lifeboat descended and rowed away from the sinking ship, Madeleine watched the Titanic's lights slowly disappear beneath the Atlantic. She listened to the screams followed by a terrible silence. She watched the man who represented both love and legacy disappear into history. Hours later, she was rescued by the RMS Carpathia and delivered back into the world of wealth, now stripped of its most precious possession. John Jacob Astor IV's body was later recovered, identified by his tailored clothing, engraved gold timepiece, the massive amount of money in his pockets, over $2,000 in cash, plus gold and jewelry. A final symbol of a life defined by refinement and restraint. Even in death, his wealth was evident. 7 months after the disaster, Madeleine gave birth to a son, John Jacob Astor V, also known as the Titanic baby, heir to a dynasty shaped by fortune and tragedy. Colonel Astor left an estate worth approximately $87 million, roughly $2.6 billion in today's money. His will provided generously for Madeleine and their son, a $5 million trust fund, $150 million today. The mansion at 845th Avenue, use of the family's properties, $100,000 annual income for life. But there was a condition: she would lose everything if she remarried. Think about that. She was 19 years old, a widow, a mother, and her late husband's will essentially told her, grieve forever, or lose your home and income. This wasn't unusual for the time. Wealthy men often included remarriage clauses in their wills, wanting to ensure their fortunes stayed within their bloodline and that their widows remained faithful to their memory. But for Madeleine, who'd been married only 7 months, who'd barely begun her adult life, it must have felt like a prison. For 4 years, she honored the conditions. She lived in the Fifth Avenue mansion, raised her son, and remained the widow Astor. But in 1916, at age 23, she made a choice. She married again to banker William Carl Dick, a childhood friend. She knew exactly what it meant. She gave up the house, the trust income, all of it. She chose love over money. They had 2 sons together. The marriage lasted until 1933, when they divorced.